not as loud as normal, for sure.
Are we good? Okay, perfect. There we go. Now we can hear a little bit better. Okay, so hour 6 o'clock is upon us. So we will begin our regularly scheduled city council meeting for July 2nd, 2024. I'd like to welcome everyone out this evening. It's great to have you here joining us. And we will begin tonight with an invocation offered by Bob Larson of the Caldwell Calvary Chapel. So Mr. Larson, if you could come forward right up to the microphone. If everybody please stand for the prayer and then remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
There we go. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for our great city that we have, and we thank you for our council members and for our mayor and all of the police officers and firemen, all the employees here for the city of Caldwell. And we pray you bless this meeting, give them wisdom and knowledge, help them to make great decisions to continue to keep this city a great city. And so we thank you for all these servants, and we pray for your blessing on them tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good. Thank you so much, Mr. Larson, for being here with us for that. We appreciate you starting our meeting with that invocation. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Doty?
Here.
Stotty?
Here.
Register?
Here.
Williams?
Here.
Dittmer?
Here.
Very good. Apologize for that. My laptop or my iPad slipped out of my hand. Councilor Allgood, excuse me, is not here with us this evening. He is excused, not feeling well, so we wish him the best at home and appreciate all he does for the city. Are there any conflict of interest declarations from any members of the council regarding any of the matters on the agenda this evening? Okay, and we do not have any special presentations tonight, so we are going to move into our audience participation. We're going to figure out a better system for this. We'll do that before the next meeting. Okay, so we do have one individual that has signed up on that, and that's Amy Perry. So if you please come forward. And this sounds like something in regards to the budget that we've been discussing. So if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, we'd appreciate that.
I will give it every effort.
Thank you.
It shouldn't take even that long. I'm a little curious about this budget item. It would appear that by the end of September, Amy Perry Caldwell, it would appear that by the end of September, we will have paid on behalf of Car Park $490,083.90, according to this budget, for them to operate a business in Caldwell that, as far as I can tell, hasn't benefited anybody, provides no services or product. We're paying this to an out-of-area business. How do you get on with this gig? This sounds pretty good.
So there's a lot that goes into that, and I'm sure, Raylyn, do you have any of those numbers or what those costs breakdown are in regards to that?
I have the breakdown.
Okay.
I have the breakdown.
Okay, so have you seen that, Raylyn, or had a chance to review it? So it's difficult to just off the cuff say what all those expenses are and things like that. We can definitely look into that. So if you'd like to provide that, most definitely, on that, and then we can be able to look through that and get you some better answers after reviewing all of those costs and expenses.
That would be nice.
So, and a lot of those could be, the initial startup costs, things of that nature. But we can look into that and get you some answers for sure. Okay, thank you, Amy. Okay, that moves us into our consent calendar. I know we do have 2 amendments on that. I'm not sure who has.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Doty.
Let's see here. I think I'm just going to read the whole thing from start to finish here. So we'll move to approve the agenda with the following amendments. The consent calendar move items 5 and 18 to new business for further discussion. Add new business items number 1, number 2, and number 3 to read. Number 1, for public hearing for the purpose of receiving comments concerning parking regulations in downtown Caldwell, specifically Bill number 52, Ordinance number 3546, parking regulations, Section 090712, addressing downtown parking fees and regulations. Number 2, consider Bill number 52, Ordinance number 3546A, amending Chapters 9, Article 7, Section 9712, subsection 7, pertaining to paid parking and time limitations, with a request to move for its passage and approve the summary for publication. And number 3, consider approval of Resolution number 369-23A, amending Exhibit A of said resolution regarding a schedule of fees for parking in the downtown district.
Very good. So we do have a motion for amendment to the agenda as stated. Do we have a second?
Second.
So a motion from Councilor Doty, second from Councilor Stoddard. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, then that motion passes. Now we have the amended consent calendar before council for your consideration.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Doty,
I move that we approve the amended consent calendar.
do we have a second?
Second.
Motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard for approval of the consent calendar as amended. With that, voting is open. There we go, and all are in, and so voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. So I guess he's the closest one to it over there, maybe that's why Councilor Dittenberg's went so quick. Okay, so that moves us into reports. So we do have a report this evening, Mr. Jenkins, regarding the Amphitheater project updates. We appreciate you being here tonight and to present that.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you for having me this evening. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here and share this exciting update. So, wanted to provide a quick update on the Amphitheater project. As you are all aware, we are currently in the exclusive negotiation agreement phase of the project. That phase was initiated on April 2nd, 2024. The ENA allows the city and the developer to pursue negotiation of the disposition and development agreement, the DDA, and a long-term ground lease for the subject property that was evidenced in that was referenced in the RFP that we put out. The city, at its discretion, may extend the negotiation period within the ENA for an additional period of 60 days. So 2 additional periods of 60 days, so 120 days total could be the extension. So with that context, I want to provide some additional context relative to the process. So the RFP, as was noted in a previous meeting, was originally slated for as a due date on November 28th, 2023 at 5 p.m., but we extended it to January 15th, 2024 at 5 p.m. to accommodate the intervening holidays. Lexor Companies was selected as a preferred developer via an RFP review committee. To better understand the needs of the stakeholders in the area within the site that was under consideration, we decided to commence meetings that pertain to the Caldwell Event Center area. The area included stakeholders such as the College of Idaho, the Canyon County Fair, and the Caldwell Night Rodeo. The first meeting was held on March 28th, including myself, Regan Rossi from College of Idaho, Gene Betts from the Caldwell Night Rodeo, Mark Schmidt from DMB, Mike Dittenberg from the City Council here, Diana Center from the Canyon County Fair, Chris Allgood, City Council member, Greg Arass from Canyon County, Jim Porter from Urban Renewal, he's the Urban Renewal Chair, and Robin Collins, she's our Planning and Zoning Director. The primary objective of the meeting was to better understand the history of the area and the needs of the stakeholders in the area, while also clarifying the details of the proposed amphitheater project and the master plan process that was being conducted by Logan Simpson. Subsequent meetings were held on April 18th, 2024, May 2nd, 2024, May 16th, 2024, and June 6th, 2024. All the notes for these meetings, by the way, have been recorded and documented for your consideration if you'd like to review those. After the first meeting, we decided to add some additional members, including Travis Palmer from the Caldwell Chamber and Danae Warren from Destination Caldwell. The last meeting was on June 6th and included Julie McCoy from Parks and Recreation and Juan Avila from the Caldwell Event Center, because the meeting details on this day were focused on the Logan Simpson sub-area master plan process. Overall, this stakeholder group has collectively reviewed the active leases in the area, discussed the amphitheater project, and walked through the Logan Simpson sub-area master plan process while providing input based on the perspectives of each entity involved in the stakeholder group. The sub-area master plan process is ultimately meant to help us plan effectively for the future. while considering parcels beyond the original Caldwell Event Center area, including ancillary uses such as hotels, restaurants, breweries, and other related activities. And as Robin Collins shared during her time with the stakeholder group, it also considers transit opportunities and growth plans that may be on the horizon for the College of Idaho. Regarding Griffith Park and the donation from the Griffith family, I just want to make this clear because some questions have come to my office regarding this, but the warranty deed states that the premises shall be used for the county fair site and/or an ag expo and/or other public purposes and uses. Additionally, any improvements must be named after the Griffith family. A direct reference was made about this within the RFP on page 3, which states that the project must respect history and community landmarks, which may include naming the facility or a component of the facility after the Griffith family, the original owners of the parcel. So we already referenced that within the RFP that was disseminated. As for the current status of the project, Lexor Companies has interacted with the City Council, as well as many stakeholders to develop a plan for the 14.30 acre site in the Caldwell Event Center area. During discussions, another site within Caldwell has come to light, and we have been investigating that property pretty thoroughly. Staff has spent considerable time researching this area. We've had meetings with myself and Public Works and other entities within the city to investigate this other property more thoroughly. After discussions with these entities, we have decided that this may be an opportunity to explore further. So with that said, the primary site is not being disregarded or abandoned. Lexor is creating 2 paths to ultimately bring this project to Caldwell and is continuing to review possibilities at each location. I will keep you informed of our progress and plan to provide a more decisive or definitive update when more information becomes available. And with that, I'd love to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor Doty.
Thank you. Steve or Mr. Mayor, the deed did come up at the master plan meeting that I attended, and so it sounds like you've covered in there. Do we have, the county representative seemed to have a different opinion. In fact, she stated something similar to this, and I think Councilor Dittenberg was there with me, but she wasn't sure why we were discussing it since it did not fit what the deed had in it. Have we had that legally reviewed or a discussion with the county to ensure we don't have 2 opposing views of what that deed means and whether or not an amphitheater would fall within that category?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioner Doty, thank you for that question. And the language I read from this document was actually from the deed directly. It wasn't my own wording. So that verbiage came directly from there. And in working with our legal team, we assessed it pretty thoroughly and came to the conclusion that we were able to move forward with plans for this facility. So the information that we were able to investigate would not preclude any future development there in this manner. Of course, if there were another consideration for development, perhaps that would be something to consider. But in the case of an amphitheater, we felt that we could proceed accordingly. And Mark, I don't want to misspeak or speak on your behalf, but that was my assessment of the process.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and that's my biggest concern, right, is to ensure that legal has taken a look at it so that we don't end up somewhere down the road. And now this pops up after all the work that everyone seems to be contributing, so.
Sure.
And Mark is shaking his head up and down, so I'm going to go with he's agreeing that he's reviewed it.
Sound accurate statement on that? So,
I've reviewed it. I've been, aware of I wasn't trying to avoid it. I've been aware of those conditions for some time. They've come up in the past. It's the public component of the conditions we think that the project meets. Now, ultimately, the developer's going to have to be comfortable with that as well. And they are in a due diligence phase, and so their opinion on it will be obviously important too.
okay, thank you so much. Councilor Dittenberg.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Jenkins, thank you for the update. I appreciate it. I'm also glad to hear that they're considering possible another location. So we always fare better in the long run when we have options. And so the property that they're looking at, I believe, is a cross Centennial Boulevard, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they're doing their due diligence on. Is that deed restricted also? I know we call it Wittenberger Park. Are we in the same situation there that we were with Griffith Park?
So, Mayor, Councilor Dittenberg, thank you for that question. We are investigating other properties in that area. I will say that regarding Wittenberger Park, there are some restrictions there that need to be fully examined and considered. But relative to that area, there are some properties there that are being examined further. But nonetheless, I would say that this group is intentional about finding a way to be here in Caldwell. They've done a lot of market research and really believe in the future that we have here. And I'm excited for that. I've said this before and I'll say it again, but the economic prosperity of this community really depends on the private sector and our partnerships with the private sector. And in an effort to protect the taxpayers and really help to support that private investment, I think a project like this could be paramount for the future success of the city.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Thank you so much. We appreciate that
Thank you,
update on that. Okay, there is no old business, so we'll jump into new business. And we do have, as mentioned before, we do have some amendments to that, so we'll start off with those. So I'll try to remember and go in order. The first was the consent item number 5 was removed. That's the approved resolution accepting the notice of award to Erminger Construction LLC in the amount of $691,617 for the Septage Receiving Station project. Ashley.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So I, Ashley Newbury, Deputy Public Works Director over the Water Divisions. I'm here to present the notice of award of contract for construction of the Caldwell Wastewater Treatment Plant Septage Receiving Station to Erminger Construction in the amount of $691,617. As a reminder, we own and operate our own wastewater treatment plant with the Septage Receiving Station. The station allows companies who pump septic tanks to dispose of their hauled solids at our wastewater treatment facility. We are the only municipality in the Treasure Valley remaining who's of our size who's still accepting septage, just because of some of the potentials that can bring. But thus far, we have worked with Keller and Associates to design a station that will protect our facilities and allow us to continue to accept septage at the wastewater treatment plant. And I have, in anticipation of this, I've also gathered some of our historic revenue numbers to support this proposal. So with that, I would stand for any questions.
Councilor Doty.
It was me that pulled it, so thank you. And the reason I wanted to bring it to council is we talked about it at the budget session about the septage. So I just wanted to do it in another platform here at the
Sure.
city council meeting rather than just the budget. That we are the only one that accepts outside septage, and that often, I don't know if you use the word often, but it does cause damage. I know that sometimes to some of our equipment. So once again, I just want to reiterate that maybe we should look at fees. We don't want this going on the Caldwell taxpayers' backs by accepting outside. Clearly, you're collecting fees, which must be helping pay for that. Or if we have to, I'm fully in support of raising it for those that are outside of our city, if we need to do that. Just so that we can have a good, I guess, septage receiving station, and that the appropriate people are paying when it becomes damaged or needs improved.
Yes, Mayor, council member, that's absolutely well received. I did want to share, I have some numbers here, if I may, that would allow you to view our revenue over the last 7 years that's well in support of this project, but we're certainly open to increasing those fees if necessary. You're going to see that our revenues for 1 year will exceed the cost of these improvements. And then also the amount of the gallons that we treat in a day is quite a bit more than the amount that we receive via septic hauler. So with that, I'm going to share these with you, and you're welcome to take a look and let me know if there are further questions.
Just a couple more, maybe, Mr. Mayor, thank you. It's great that it's covering the cost. I'm just ensuring that our taxpayers are getting the best bang for their buck, so I want to ensure that if it's equal, or in this case, that maybe we do charge outside, and maybe we do, I didn't hear you say that, but maybe we do charge people outside the city more to cover those damages versus it being equally across the board where our taxpayers are funding it and then others are contributing. I understand that through the fees, but maybe those outside the city not doing business in Caldwell might be a better way to put it, are paying more, I guess is how I'll say it.
Mayor, council, that's well heard and received. I would clarify that there are certainly some good septage haulers out there that aren't providing us loads that have the potential to give damage, but there are also some bad actors, unfortunately. And that can come in the form of rocks, rags, or even chemicals that we're not prepared to treat. We can certainly, at the time of revising fees, we can certainly make that change. And right now, I would say that everyone is charged the same amount per gallon that we receive. But that's well heard.
Councilor Denver?
I may have a question somewhere along the line, but my first comment is echoing what Councilor Doty says. I think people live in the county, they brag about not wanting to pay city fees, they brag about, and then yet they get the same great rate that the citizens of Caldwell get. And so I'm all in favor of making sure that the people in the county maybe pay their greater fair share of the project. And even if we did generate more money on septage than it cost to build this, there are still other items within that revenue account that can be paid for by increased septage fees for county residents, correct?
Mayor, Councilor, I believe that is correct. At this time, we are not tracking the source location of each hauler's load, and so I think there is opportunity for that. I would say that, of course, it's our assumption that these individuals are not connected to city sewer, so their rate is higher in a way. But as far as tracking sources that are outside of city limits and or outside of Canyon County, we can certainly make that distinction and charge those individuals more.
My question then is about nutrients, right? So it's an odd word, but I think we talk in terms of nutrients and wastewater, and so the nutrients of septage are developed under anaerobic conditions, where nutrients in our regular system are developed under aerobic systems. Does it affect our treatment process? Do we go, oh, septage is coming, call in 3 more guys, or, increase the contact time in the reactors? What happens with septage?
Thank you for that question, Mayor, Councilor. That's a great question. So when septage comes in, it's certainly more concentrated. It doesn't have as much water in it, but the actual volume that we see compared to all of the water that's actually in the sewage just makes the septage really a drop in the bucket. And so our response is not changed at all.
Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So fees discussions come up in September, is that correct? So you're hearing this, we'll talk about it more then, but
Absolutely.
I would suggest maybe even some consultations coming into that.
Okay.
So that we might shorten that time, and then we can deal with some of this. But I think you're hearing what we're saying, so September we can nail this down.
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent, very good. I don't see any other questions, or is there a motion for approval of this resolution?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
It's a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard for approval of this resolution in regards to the notice of award to Erminger Construction for the septage receiving station project. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed. And that motion does pass unanimously. Okay, so that moves us into number 8, if I'm not mistaken, from the consent calendar. It's been moved to new business, and this is approved resolution authorizing the airport manager to enter discussions with the Voice of Idaho Amateur Radio Club for purpose of negotiating a memorandum of understanding to be considered by Caldwell City Council for approval. And I don't. Oh. Oh, okay, I didn't see the one there. Sorry, no, I was trying, I'm like, well, Scott's not here. I was looking over my shoulder here on this one. So yes, number 18, I apologize. This is for the reappointment of Councilor Allgood to Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency on that. So, and I think Councilor Doty had some questions. Yep, so go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my biggest concern here is not Councilor Allgood. It's the date on here is clear to July 1st of 2029. I know Councilor Allgood was just reelected. I think that that's working well for him on urban renewal. However, 2029 goes beyond even his term as a councilor. And so I'm just curious as to why we stretched out an additional 2 years beyond his term. He's going to have to run again or choose not to. in 2027, correct? And so why is it stretched to 2029?
So, I see fingers getting pointed to Mr. Hilty.
Yeah, I think the answer is we have an ordinance that requires, and I think the state statute does as well, appointments for specific terms. There's a provision in the city ordinance that says if somebody's appointment is tied to their seat on city council and they lose that seat, then that appointment ends at that time, and somebody new would be appointed. Is that I don't have it in front of me, and I didn't anticipate that was the question, but that's my memory of what the ordinance provides. So
And state
if-
code does also talk about you can only have so many members come off at one time, and so that also plays into it as well, so. Okay. Hey, Councilor Stoddard?
I'm good.
Oh, okay. Very good. So with that, do we have an approval or a motion for approval of this reappointment?
So moved.
And a second? Second. So that's a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard for approval of the reappointment of Councilor Allgood to the Urban Renewal Agency Board. Any discussion on that motion? With that, the voting is open. Soon it will be open. Is it stuck? Okay, now I believe it is there. Yes, now it is open. And all votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that passes unanimously as well. This is almost one of those things, if you don't show up, you get nominated to do all the work, so. The one red. So we appreciate Councilor Allgood and taking the time and effort on behalf of that to do those things. Okay, and that is the two items that were removed from the consent, so now we are back into our regular new business items. And first is regards to, this was part of that amendment. We appreciate the council taking the time to allow this to come forward this evening. Thought that it was important in that regards. And so to kind of start this, so we are going to, this is going to kind of be a two-part deal. First is a public hearing for the purpose of receiving comments concerning parking regulations. We do have a number of people signed up. And then also, Madam Clerk just gave me an email that's been asked to be read in the record, so I'll say a few things and then then I'll read that, and then we'll go into those in support, in neutral, in opposition, and then we'll open it up at that time for council to ask questions or make any comments then. So again, we have received lots of feedback in regards to the meters in the downtown. Myself and city staff have spoken to numerous businesses on that. I know I was out last week and then also yesterday visiting a number of businesses. I know that Steve and Ophelia are out visiting businesses today as well. And in that regards, and it's been great to get out and visit with the businesses and talk with them and hear from them. We've heard from a number of them here at city council meetings, through emails, through voice messages, through letters that have been submitted. And it truly is a mix of reactions on that. Some people really appreciate them. Some people don't mind them and put up with them, and some people really dislike them in that regards. And so that's kind of where we've been and what we've seen. I think the most important thing is really knowing that, this is not about myself, the office of the mayor, what the mayor's office wants in this regards. It's not about the council members. Yes, the council does need to decide on that, but it's not about us. It really truly is about what's best for Caldwell, what is best for those businesses down there, and that is really the goal, to do what's best for all of them. And we will never get 100% unanimous consent one way or the other. I know in some of the discussions we had with the proposals that are being brought forth that I mentioned, and I appreciate council. That's obviously, it's not just come from me. That's some council input from the business owners in regards to changing some of the timeframes. Instead of a 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., looking at 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then also eliminating one of the days of charge parking, Saturday, going to just 5 days a week of charge parking in that regards. And there's a mixed reaction on that in those regards. I know that staff visited with a business today that was very nervous about, one additional was extending the free amount of parking from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. There was business owners that were concerned about even doing that. They liked the 15 minutes. They said maybe 20, but not 30. They were afraid it was going to change the dynamics that they've seen the last couple of weeks on that. So There was also, I know another business owner that I was visited with, and they had made the suggestion, instead of Saturday and Sunday being free, of maybe a Sunday, Monday being free. Monday is a slower time in the downtown. Perhaps, the thought was that gives incentive for people if they want to avoid the meters, maybe they come down on Monday. I know there's a number of businesses that are not open on Monday, and I imagine it's because it is slower. Would that give them the ability to be open or not? Not sure, but that was a suggestion. So like I said, even on these proposed amendments, you're seeing from the business owners that myself, staff have visited with, have differences in opinions on that. We appreciate the difference of opinions, the input. We appreciate constructive criticism, people that have suggestions and thoughts in regards to how to make it better. I know I had a great conversation, I don't know the gentleman's name, but I was late to a meeting with Steve because we ended up speaking for almost an hour on the phone. And he was very much against them, but he was very polite. We had a great conversation, discussed, the reasons behind those, and really at the end of it, I think we both kind of saw a little light on each side and the reasons behind why he did not like them, the reasons behind why the city implemented them. And we appreciate those conversations and we enjoy those conversations. And like I said, I really did enjoy that conversation that I had with that gentleman and appreciate the phone call he gave. So just kind of want to start with that. I really appreciate the feedback, understanding that we know it's not going to be unanimous one way or the other, and it's really what is best for downtown Caldwell, for the businesses to continue to thrive, and not just survive, but thrive. That's the key. We want them to continue to thrive and do those things. So with that, I will read this letter into the record, and then we'll jump into those that have signed up. And if there's others that came late that do wish to speak as well, we'll provide you that opportunity and get your names on here if you wish. So this is, again, I will read this verbatim. This is an email that was received today at 2:19 p.m. from Tammy Dittenberg to Debbie Geyer and my office. It says, Honorable Mayor and council members, I patronize downtown 3 to 4 times a week, lately more. For the first time in 5 years, I am able to park near my destination, and it's glorious. I use the app. It's easy and convenient. I also have used quarters, and that is also easy. I have friends who, because of disabilities, had given up going downtown. Handicapped spots were hard to find, and they simply had to traverse too much area to make it worth it. They are so excited to be able to come downtown and park close again. Many of those who want the meters removed are angry they and their employees can no longer park free all day right outside their businesses. Those of us who come downtown often knew exactly which cars would be parked where. That has stopped. I still see those vehicles, but they are in private lots or across the railroad tracks in free parking. I'm certain there is data, but my casual observation is that the free lots are near capacity much of the time, freeing up space for patrons. That's the desired outcome. The amount of public process and input around the installation of meters was unprecedented. Open houses, public hearings over and over. My suggestion is to give the result time, more time than 4 weeks. No business would research, plan, implement change, and then based on some loud voices, immediately make knee-jerk changes. I'm not opposed to the changes the mayor proposes, but my concern is free here, free for this special group and free for this day, or a self-fulfilled prophecy of never giving the meters a chance to be successful. Unhappy people never have hesitance to be loud. Happy people will simply go on about their business. That basic truth has been exploited by some who want you to legislate by social media. Shame on them. Caldwell is 72,000 residents strong. Most have no issues using a parking meter. I trust council will make data, not social media-driven decisions. These are my personal thoughts. As a 66-year-old woman, she put that there, so I think I'm all right to state the age on that. I still get to have my opinions, deductions, and thoughts. I'm fairly sure some wish that wasn't the case, but it is. Thank you for all you do, Tammy Dittenberg. We appreciate that email and submitting on that and those comments in that regard. So with that, we'll jump in. So like I said, we do have people signed up in favor. There's nobody in support, or nobody in neutral, excuse me, and then we do have a few signed up in opposition. So we begin with those in support. Lori Dietrich, if you'd please come forward. And if you could state your name, an address for the record, and then you'll be given 3 minutes for your testimony.
Lori Dietrich. I'm out on Cambridge off of Indiana. And I can state my age. I'll be 65 shortly, and I've lived in Caldwell, around Caldwell all my life. I remember when we had parking meters and my mom digging out change and putting in change, and you know what? I put in change, and my granddaughters love putting change in the machine, so it doesn't bother me at all. I will say that some that may be complaining have missed out, because yesterday it was like a slot machine and gave me back $1 more than what I put in. I actually came and tried to give it back to the office, which I thought was pretty funny. But I don't understand, I mean, I do understand that some people have problems with them, but to me, it's more just the opposition to change, opposition to whatever they think it is. There was plenty of opportunity, I remember, for weeks and weeks, getting emails trying to get, and I didn't come down because I was like, parking meters, not a big deal. They're not hard to use. If I can figure it out, and I really am technologically challenged, I will say, I'm not, if my daughter has to walk me through a lot of stuff. But hey, the changes that you're implementing, if that goes through, I think that's a good idea. I think that would help the businesses. One thing I've noticed, social media is fun, it's a good thing, but it can also be really negative, especially when you see certain people that get on social media trying to get others to, say, negative, or try to get everybody to come down and, put your word in, have somebody, let's sign a petition and let's get rid of them. We don't, it's like, I don't know how much money was put in, obviously a lot, and probably to take them out, there's a loss of money. I think giving them a chance, making some changes that you can make, I think that's really where it's at. I mean, everybody's got a change jar, and if they don't, I mean, that's all I've done is put quarters in, and it's easy, really easy. And it's no lie about the slot machine, because I was like, what the heck, I only put $1 in. So, I owe you $1, they wouldn't take it, so.
That's going to be
Anyway,
everybody's favorite
I'm
parking
done.
spot when they find out where that was at. So thank you so much, Lori, appreciate that. So, and you'll notice that we do really appreciate you staying under time. You'll notice that we do have, so there's a clock up here and then one there that does show that time as you go on. So we appreciate you respecting that time, as there are a few people signed up to speak on this matter. So there's, as I mentioned, nobody has signed up in neutral, and we do have a few signed up in opposition. So we'll start with Marta Rostock. So if you'll come forward, and if you could just state your name and address for the record, and then we'll key up that timer for you for the 3 minutes. And thank you for coming down. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you. I'm new at this, so I'm really nervous. My name is Marta Rostock. I can do this in 3 minutes without breathing. Okay. Dear Mayor and Caldwell City Council, I have lived in Caldwell all of my life. I have seen a lot of changes happen here. I was involved in the Caldwell Centennial celebration, and for anyone who remembers, even the mock funeral procession for the burial of the last traffic light on the freeway going through Caldwell. Those were fun chapters in some history of our little town. I was also a member of the Public Relations Committee for Caldwell years ago. My grandfather was a professor at the College of Idaho. My mom worked at the C of I for 21 years, and I graduated from the C of I. My mom and I and my sister-in-law owned a bookstore here in town for 15 years until she passed away. I am a huge positive member of this city. And I married a man whose family owns a business in Caldwell. Rostock Furniture has been a part of this downtown community for now nearly 70 years. Generations of families have shopped with us in Caldwell through these years. I tell you this because the connections we make with our community matters. The welcoming comfort the public feels in downtown Caldwell matters. When people come to our store, we love to catch up on how they are. That's the same for many of the businesses here. We are just friendly. Everyone says how Caldwell people are friendly. When we ask, how are you doing? We mean it. We want to know how their daughter's graduation went or how their dad's hip surgery was. That's what makes us different here. We have customers as far as Jordan Valley and the nearby growing communities of Middleton and Star. People from Eagle, Meridian, and Boise are coming here because we are different. We are kind and honest and appreciative. People trust us here. That hasn't happened overnight. We have all spent years becoming someplace different than big cities where you feel like a number. So I think I understand that your intention was to alleviate a parking problem downtown by intentionally seeing more rotation. But please remember that the city spent 15 to 20 years working very hard to revitalize the center of Caldwell. And so finally we have people coming downtown. Shops busy, employers hiring, people enjoying time here. What a wonderful problem to have. And within a month, you've shut it down. The customers that used to come and sit and visit for a while, talk to my husband about old times, tell us about their aches and pains, get a hug from us when their wife passed away, just enjoy visiting for a while. Well, they're all now scared. They are hurried. They pay their bill and leave quickly so they won't get a ticket. The older folks who move slow are nervous and afraid and confused, worried they will get a ticket. Everyone has become scared and nervous and defensive. They watch their time frantically, don't take time to wander and shop and stay. They hurry to get their business done and get out. I think you may have meant well, but what has happened is completely opposite of your objective. We want them to come and shop and then go have lunch and maybe sit for a while at the plaza or meet a friend for a coffee or ice cream. This has changed the dynamic of Caldwell. People have stopped spending time here. They get their errands done and get out. This has destroyed the character of Caldwell. Of course, we would like to see the parking meters removed entirely, and we realize you have a contract until October. Thank you for being open to some changes. But if the ultimate objective is to get the people downtown and then rush them back out, it isn't meeting the purpose. Please consider a 2-hour limit from 8 to 5 on weekdays and weekends free. Thank you sincerely for listening.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Appreciate those comments. So very well stated. You did an excellent job. So, and thank you for all that you do. So, okay, thank you so much. Fletcher, is it Sasha Fletcher? Did I get that correct? Well, okay, she's not here. Gerald, is it Vassar? And if you could just state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have your 3 minutes.
Gerald Lee Vassar. I'm on Vineyard Sycamore Street, or Apartments, Caldwell, Idaho, 821 Fillmore Street, Apartment 104. Give me a minute. It's been a long time. I graduated from Valley View High School, went to BSU, graduated from there. Had my own business. And what you gotta be careful of when you start putting meters downtown is taxation and how you support that. There's other things here I'm really concerned about. Go down 10th or down Everett Street. You see sidewalks being occupied by cars. That's a right-of-way. That's a public right-of-way. Those cars need to be addressed to. That's more important than worrying about meters down here in Caldwell, Idaho. I walked. I drove a commercial truck for almost 50 years. And it doesn't bother me to walk. And I'm the point now, you see, what's going on here is taxation, and it's how you, in administration, how to do that is not making means funds to get that done. You're in a hole, and that's bad. That's in the red, and that's hard to get back. And you lose business doing that, and that businesses are your tax base. You lose those small business, you lose your tax base. And that is a very thing you really need to be concerned about. Because you lose business, they don't come back. And it's like a cancer, and it will spread. And here for small business, not for big business. That's how Caldwell is growing, is by small business a bit at a time. And my great uncle was the mayor of Caldwell, Emery Vassar. The Vassar is a strong name here. So I'm just telling you from what I've seen across country, team driving my wife for 40-something years, and I don't like to see that happen here. And I appreciate your time.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming down, taking the time.
And
thank you so much.
hopefully you don't tax my legs someday when I have to walk down here to do business. That'd be an ultimate insult. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think I earned my position.
Yeah, yes, thank you so much. We do appreciate you taking the time on that. Next is Mary Contreras. So if you could just state your name and address for the record, then you have 3 minutes for your statements.
My name is Moni Contreras. I'm so nervous, but 517 Main Street, and I am the store manager of Mi Tierra downtown. We've been here 15 years, and the meter parking is not working for me. We have lost a lot of business. People used to come, eat lunch, eat some tacos, shop around, walk around, get some stuff. People are coming in and not eating at the store anymore. They're taking food to go because people aren't paying for the meters. They're just coming in, trying to get out quick. Everybody is confused on how to use the meters. We as small business owners weren't educated by the city or whoever put the meters. We were educated enough to educate our customers. So they think that 15 minutes are free. They just walk in 15 minutes and get out, when that's not the case. You have to enter your information, put your card information to get the first 15 minutes for free. You guys had said it was going to be $1. It's actually $1.25, and then if you pay over the phone, it's like $1.35. It's just a hot mess. Like, when I got here, it took me 10 minutes because it kept logging me out. It wouldn't take my credit card, and I'm concerned for my business, and I'm concerned for the businesses around. Another thing is where I'm located, we have no free parking at all. Our free parking is a couple blocks down by the movie theaters, behind the railroad tracks. I have young girls that work for me, 16, 17-year-olds. What's going to happen when it's winter time and it's 8 o'clock at night and it's dark and they have to go park over there? I'm against the meters, but if we're going to have to work with it, then why doesn't my side of downtown Caldwell have a free 3-hour parking? Indian Creek has the parking behind. The movie theaters has across the railroad tracks. What do we get? We don't get nothing. There's an empty lot that nobody parks. I have probably like 30 pictures. Every day I go to work and I take a picture of that empty lot. Why don't we do that empty lot free parking? Free 3-hour parking or something. Now there was a video on social media with the city of Caldwell saying that you had gone to a couple businesses to talk to them about their concerns. I've never, ever, nobody has ever visited me about my concerns, about how my business is doing, if it's affecting my business or not. And there is quite a few businesses that I've talked to that have not gotten a call, an email, a postcard, anything. So I think you guys have to do something different and maybe talk to the businesses and see from where they're coming from, because we are what runs downtown. The small business do. And yeah, that's about it. That's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick
Maybe a couple questions.
question. Don't run away. When we talked the other day about the downtown parking, because we did get a chance to talk.
Yes.
You met
Yeah,
nobody
we
from the
did, and
city
then,
had come, and then Councilor Williams?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm glad the council was able to follow up with you. But when we talked the other day, you said something that I thought was really interesting, that if somebody were, because you have a restaurant, or like a deli counter kind of thing in your store. So if somebody comes in and they pay the $1 or $1.35 fee with the app, and they come in to get a taco and hang out or whatever, like how much are the tacos again? You said they were
like $3.
$3.
So basically, they're going to be paying $4 for a lunch, for one taco.
Right, so $4.35 if they want to stay
Yes.
longer than that 15 minutes, which is what's pushing everybody out
Exactly.
to take it, and then not spending more time in your store and stuff. So I just thought that was a really interesting comment, to be able to kind of put it to something practical, that instead of a $3 taco, they're now $4.35.
Yeah.
That was all I, thanks.
Yeah. And maybe just, it sounds like you have not gotten your free parking passes.
No.
So maybe we could get with Steve, because I know all the businesses where you're at were allotted a certain number of parking passes for their employees and to share with them. So it sounds like you maybe have not gotten those, so maybe we could get you with our,
Yeah, we are parking in the back, but how about for my customers?
okay. So it's more for your customers than the
Yes.
employees? Okay.
That's for my customers,
Okay.
because I think like there's the free parking in the middle, like behind Indian Creek Steakhouse, which is 3-hour parking. And then again, like I said, behind the movie theaters across the railroad tracks. But how about our side of downtown, like my side? There's no free parking.
Okay, yeah, just I wanted to make sure, I thought that maybe you hadn't. so
No,
just wanted
yeah,
to make sure
no,
that you did. Okay,
I believe I spoke with the Ophelia?
Ophelia, yep.
Yeah, and I sent her our stuff, our
Okay,
information.
perfect. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, just
Yes,
one
yeah.
additional. So I don't know if she's going to stay through the whole thing, but I just wanted you to know, I do have that in my notes to bring up about your concern about 3 hours behind other businesses and
Yeah.
not yours. So
And
it'll
then,
definitely get
I don't know
discussed.
if I can say another comment that I don't know if you guys have thought about, but the whole point of the parking meters is to get the parking situation control and obviously for the city to make some money, right? During Winter Wonderland, if the hours are from 9 to 5, how is the city going to be making money from the 40,000 people that come and visit Caldwell?
I actually
If the
have that in
hours-
my notes to bring
Yeah,
up.
if the
So
hour-
maybe- Yeah, I think we're going to have that bigger discussion in just
Okay.
a little bit, but I know that myself and
Because
Councilor Doty have talked
because
about
what I've thought about was why are we charging the locals that come in? The locals are the ones that come and buy little things here and there, a plant, a necklace, get a haircut, or come have lunch. People from outside don't come to have lunch or stuff like that, you know, they come for dinner, so why don't we charge
Yeah.
the people that come for the dinner outside, people from Boise, people from Eagle, they're the ones that are coming for dinner, so why aren't we charging them instead? We're charging our community. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Okay, excellent.
you.
Yes, thank you so much. So that's all that is signed up. I'm not sure if anybody that came in late was wishing to speak. Okay, yes, and so once you are done, we will need to get your name on here. I'm going to hand this back down to the city clerk. So we'll have you go ahead and speak first, and just if you don't mind when you're done, just go over and we'll have that paper for you to get your name on there. So if you could just state your name and address for the record.
So my name's George Decker. I don't know which address you want. I'm at 106 South Kimball. I'm the new bookstore.
That works.
Well, my wife owns the bookstore. I work there. So we rented our spot knowing that that these were in place. You know, we rented it in December. And so we knew it was coming down the pike. So we only had a month of open. So we don't have pros or cons, or how much time. We don't have a lot of records of sales. We just had 1 month worth. So, but my biggest concern is the railroad tracks. And I know working with UP is a nightmare, but there are no sidewalks at all across all those streets. There's no sidewalks, and come wintertime, the slush just ends right there. And from there until you get to the other side of the street, or the tracks, snow removal begins again. That is problematic for a lot of people. And that was my biggest concern. Again, I can see both sides of this, where you want customers to be able to park. You don't want people parking in front of their own businesses. I've never understood that myself, because that's where customers park. But I can also see the other side of it, where you have, who gets free parking? Is it just the handicap for right now? Or is it handicapped and veterans? Those are the, because someone had mentioned veterans as well.
Yeah, so if you have a disabled plate, you can park for free anywhere.
Right.
If for those with veteran plate that are like issued from the DMV, where you have to kind of show that you are a veteran or that you're a member of any of the services, so that is 3 hours of free parking.
Okay, so if I just show up with my DD 214, I'm okay with that. If I go, do I have to have a plate that says veteran, or can it be?
So you do need a plate.
You do need a
Yep.
plate? Okay, all right, okay. Those are my concerns and questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I would recommend, so Mr. McDonald, do you mind raising your hand? So there is a quiet zone study that we're doing now. What that does is for the railroad tracks, for those crossings, so it improves them to where you would have, ADA accessible sidewalks, traversing. 'Cause I believe you're talking about probably Kimball and the tracks where it's a mess.
And it's not just Kimball though, because
Yeah.
I've over behind the road, or behind the movie house, and then also on further down off of Fifth.
Yeah, so that quiet zone would improve 5th, Kimball, 9th, 12th, 21st, and Linden Street. So you could talk with him about it, how that's coming along for dates. Then also, in regards to the snow removal, that's good to know, so you could talk to him, because he's over the department that does do the snow removal, to make sure that we're doing it adequate over there. So
Thank you
yeah.
very much.
Thank you so much, appreciate it. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so with that, I stand for a motion to, again, so this is just going to be to close this public hearing item, then it moves into the discussion on action item number 2 for the council in regards to that. So is there a motion to close this public hearing item?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
So it's a motion from Councilor Stodic and a second from Councilor Register. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. So this does move us into action item number 2, which is the consideration of this bill and ordinance and these proposed changes. And again, this is recommendations. Obviously, there's been testimony given. I know that each council member has thoughts and opinions in this regard. So this is the time to discuss that, and then whatever you decide. And if you want to take more time, discuss it this evening, have thoughts and ideas, and bring it back at the next city council meeting for final decision. Or you can decide it tonight. It's solely up to council in your direction. So with that, I see a light down at the end. Councilor Doty.
Oh, you want me to go first?
I've got them all in mind.
So, again, there's a little frustration, Mr. Mayor, because we often find out through other sources what's going on or what's going to be on the agenda. Meaning, I think someone asked that if you're putting together a committee to talk about the parking issues, you did answer my request of where you were headed with that. Again, it's not that the idea is bad, it's just that it's unfortunate that council is getting that from other sources than the mayor. And so I just have a few prepared remarks, and then I'll move on into some of the comments about the hours and operation. But, you know, teamwork is not just a concept, it's the very foundation where success is built. While individual talent and innovative ideas are important, it is the synergy of teams working together that truly accomplish greatness. However, successful teamwork requires more than just presence of talented individuals. It demands mutual respect, effective communication, and a shared commitment to a common goal. It is not enough to have a good idea. It is how we collaborate, listen, and leverage each other's strengths that truly defines the success of our team. It's our collective efforts that we can use to reach our prospective goals and make a lasting impact. Mr. Mayor, you failed to recognize the value of collaboration and teamwork with your council. Coming forth with another parking meter change without informing the council is just one example. Mr. Mayor, you've lost your council on many issues, and this is just one example. So again, it would just be nice to know when other community members know the direction you're headed. It'd be great if the council knew the direction we were going as well. So, and then I'll save my remarks on the actual bill and the times and things for later. So thank you.
So I appreciate that. Do disagree some of those comments that you made. So I did email council in regards to those proposed changes. You know, and as you know, we must do these discussions in a public meeting, which is why we're doing that right now. So that's what this is that discussion that you're talking about. Because with a public agency, we cannot have private online discussions. We cannot do through, it's not appropriate to do it through email, not appropriate to do it on the side. It needs to be in a public open forum. So that is what is before you this evening. So that's why I did email the council in regards to these proposed changes so that you had time over the weekend to know about that, and then obviously tonight to discuss those changes as a council in a public forum as required by state code. So that's why, you know, we are here this evening.
And just to comment on that, Mr. Mayor, that's not what I'm talking about. If you're planning on forming a group or a committee that has nothing to do with us making a decision here on council about times or fees or payments, it's just a direction that we're going and maybe getting input from your council. Do you think it's good to have a committee look at this? Do you think it's good that the council does it in an open forum? I'm talking about those things. We clearly are all aware of the law that says we can't all get together and make a decision before we come here and discuss it. I'm talking about where we're headed and what we're doing and where the direction we're going more than, clearly I understand what the law says about making a decision outside council chamber.
Yeah, and this is definitely a first step. As you mentioned, those discussions will definitely take place. But this is just a first step in looking at how can we improve listening to the people, you know, some of these things that come forward. So this is just that first step of many that will follow and include all of the council for discussion of those items. Councilor Stodic.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to fill everybody in on the experience I've had so far since the meters have been in. First of all, I want to comment on the young lady's entitled to her opinion, so is Mrs. Dittenberg. But I want to remind everybody they don't own businesses downtown. At our last session, some of the business lost up to $20,000 already. And, you know, that's something we need to be concerned about. Every Tuesday, I make myself available to taxpayers downtown at a restaurant, and I have anywhere from a half a dozen to a dozen every week. And I've yet to have one that was in favor of the parking meters. I'd use them just about every week, several times a week. So that's the feedback I got. Today, I was walking down Arthur, close to 9th Street, an elderly lady stopped me that was going to the movie in the afternoon, and she was needing help, with the parking meter. She did all the things that she was supposed to do from what I could see, and the parking meter told her that it wasn't non-clarification or something. And we got to talking again, and she did ask me if I was the call-right and if I lived here and all that, and lo and behold, she recognized the name as a councilman, so I can tell you I got an earful after that. And some of the other emails that I received too, and I have yet to find anybody that really is positive about, moving forward with this, and I really hope that we take in consideration the businesses downtown, and maybe some folks are making more business, but the ones that I've talked to so far are not. So we need to be serious about this and make sure that we follow through with all the feedback we get from the taxpayers and the businesses. And like I say, most of the positive feedback for the meter so far have been from people that don't own businesses downtown, which has been negative so far. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Councilor Register.
Yes, so if you disagree with Councilor Doty, you're really going to disagree with me, but I have a prepared statement that I've been sort of working on now for a couple of weeks. And it is a little bit long, so I appreciate you bearing with me because I feel like there's quite a bit to say. Mayor, I appreciate what you're trying to do here and your willingness to listen to us and the community. I absolutely agree that changes to the meters need to be made, if not removed completely. I have spent some time over the past couple of weeks speaking to community members and downtown business owners. My goal was to open the conversation and see what is working, what isn't, and where solutions can be found. Overwhelmingly, the general consensus was that the problem with the meters was the lack of communication with our stakeholders, taxpayers, and citizens, and the lack of a solid long-term plan. That, combined with the speed in which they were implemented, has led to what feels like mass confusion, resentment, and an overall bad feeling towards the project. I spoke to at least 18 businesses, and all but one said they had not been contacted by the city or the mayor himself. This concerns me greatly because as changes are being made, are we considering all of the suggestions made by the community or just a few? In my conversations, I found that there are businesses that are suffering downtown with a loss of revenue, customers, and business. Some businesses even report up to a 32% loss in June in revenue, which is unacceptable. As a small business owner myself, I understand that it is impossible for a small business to sustain themselves at such a dramatic loss without the backing of some kind of corporate or parent company, and I cannot think of one business downtown that has that. In fact, Bond & Bevel was recently named the 14th best mom-and-pop shop in the nation by Entrepreneur magazine, yet they are showing profit losses. They are a nationally recognized coffee house and popular in Caldwell, yet since the implementation of the meters, they are losing money. It is not because they are doing something wrong, it's because the city did. So why is this happening? Because the community is angry. The community was clear that if these meters were implemented, that they would stop coming, and it appears they did. Nobody welcomes any type of government overreach or the government handing down an order, and that is what happened here. While the city did host a variety of meetings and open houses, many of our constituents felt like those were just being held to be told what the city was going to do in lieu of actually being heard. This is problematic for a variety of reasons, and as leaders in the community, we should see it as such. We are all elected to be a proxy for the voices of everybody, not just one person or our own interests, but everybody. And the majority of people I spoke to do not feel represented. Therefore, when this contract is up for renewal, which I believe is in October, I would encourage the community to come to that meeting and be heard, and I would encourage the council to listen to them. While I think we can all agree there has historically been a parking problem downtown, the parking meter solution and plan was flawed. We owe it to this community to make sure we are all on the same page and that the community would benefit from this, and they have not. And because of that, I believe the city has failed them. There are many things that bothered me about this plan that was presented back in December, which is why I asked for an extension, and at that time, Mayor, you would not let that happen. I believed it would be in our best interest to have invested parties come speak at a council meeting and not just attend an open house or fill out a comment card, which incidentally the council did not see the result of until a few weeks ago. I believe it was rushed, and I believe the council was misled, which is how the city secured the votes. I believe this is to be true because all of the problems that have come up since they were implemented and installed, had there been a solid plan, organization, communication, conversations, and a professional execution of the meters, I do not think we would be seeing the issues we're now facing. While I am happy that the city is finally listening to the community and proposing changes, we have to ask ourselves if these are the right changes and all of the changes that need to be made. The mayor recently posted a video outlining the changes he was going to bring before council, which are great, but that's not enough. What you are proposing tonight is a suggestion we heard at the last meeting. And while it is a good suggestion, we are once again being met with changes with no plan, no communication with council, and no consideration. It is autocratic at best. I mentioned that I spoke to 18 businesses, and out of those 18, only 2 were in favor of the meters. 3 of them were ambivalent, which left 13 businesses who do not want them at all. This is in addition to hundreds of community members I have either personally talked to or paid attention to on social media, because those people are important too. As a 51-year-old female, I understand and appreciate this is some people's preferred way of communication, and we should not discount that. Ignoring them would be as irresponsible as only listening to the people who vote and disregarding the ones that don't. They have expressed their undeniable concerns about having meters, but because they have been reasonable, they have also come up with many solutions. I am curious how many of these business owners and community members the mayor spoke to directly, because if he did, I truly believe there would be more than just these 3 changes being presented tonight. Mayor, in order to fix the problem you essentially created, you are now proposing to lengthen the free parking time from 15 minutes to 30 minutes, change the hours, and make Saturday and Sunday free. I believe this is a good step, but it is not a full step in the right direction. And again, if you had talked to the same people I did, you would have heard the same problems and solutions I did. Many of the suggestions have been to remove the meters. If that is not happening tonight, then our taxpayers have asked for at least 1 hour free, not 30 minutes. You are also proposing that the days of the week be changed from Monday through Friday with Saturdays and Sundays free. Again, not a bad idea, but have you thought about changing the hours to the evenings where the bigger events are happening and there are actual parking issues, and leaving the daytime hours free parking so that the small businesses are not as affected? Right or wrong, this is another suggestion that's come up and warrants a conversation. They also want to get rid of the 3-hour max time limit. By having a 3-hour max rule, we are essentially telling people to come downtown but leave. This is not just a poor business model, but it is really just deterring people from coming to spend long amounts of time. I realize part of the reason why meters were implemented was to move cars in and out to free up spaces, but the fee should be enough of a deterrent for those people who were parking all day or leaving cars there for days at a time. It was also suggested by many people that we have a pay-by-space system and not a pay-by-plate. Paying by plate is probably more reasonable in a bigger, sprawled-out area, but when the city insisted on meters, not only would it have been better to have meters that matched the historical beauty of the downtown, like something vintage, paying by space would allow people to use up time that the person before them didn't use, or even allow the community to give back to the next parker if they chose to do so. Those kinds of things create togetherness. They create community, they ease tempers, this is exactly the place where the government can step out and allow the citizens to make decisions. If council was given an option to weigh in on the type of meters in the first place, that would have been my suggestion. But like many members of the community, we were simply told what the option was, not that we could have an opinion. The meters are unsightly to say the least. They don't work half the time. They remind me of big cities like Los Angeles, Portland, and Seattle. They are not appropriate for our small agricultural town. I was there the other day. There is still no option for veterans that I could see. The meters in the app are difficult for our seniors and non-English speakers to navigate, yet we offer no options for them. The meters are big and bulky and do not represent what Caldwell is about. We work so hard at preserving our history of our small town feel, even with growth, but these meters scream big city influence and big city problems. I remember you saying that they could be wrapped to fit in with our downtown, and they are not. Either way, if the meters are renewed in October, we should be looking at vintage meters and pay by space that automatically gives you your free time in the beginning. Business owners have also talked in depth about safety issues with younger employees having to walk to and from parking. Because of this, I think we should offer each business a spot near their business. That way, if business owners have concerns about their employees walking to the free lots, they can have a car on scene to shuttle them if they choose. But where is the free parking on the west side of downtown? After speaking to the owner of the Mi Tierra Market, which is closer to the police department, I found out that the closest free parking to them is behind Indian Creek, which has a 3-hour time limit, and the closest free parking to them without a time limit is behind the theater. So we're asking them and their employees to possibly park blocks away and walk to work in the dark and cold and the heat if they don't want to pay, while city employees have reserved spots in front of City Hall. I realize the city has offered some spots for them at other businesses, but while I was talking to them, I noticed that the paid parking lot across the street, which was the old Bennett's Machine Shop, was absolutely empty. There was not one car parked in it. Is there a reason why that lot can't be free and not have a time limit? We know the lot behind the railroad can't be used because of those parking spots that were given away to another business for 75 years, but why should our small businesses be punished for that error in judgment? Did you know that food delivery people can only park in one zone for 15 minutes a day? That means if they pick up from 2 different restaurants in the same zone on the same day, they have to park in a different zone in order to do that, which is ridiculous. They are up against a clock, their tips are affected, they shouldn't have to be subjected to that. Why do we not have designated pickup areas on each block without those restrictions? Why isn't the Tillian parking divided between the 2 railroad lots, allowing for businesses on both sides of Main Street to have more access to their lots? What makes Tillian more important than our small businesses who invest their own money here? In addition, we don't have a long-term plan. The meters were so rushed that even I have asked questions to the city and can't get answers because, frankly, nobody seems to know. A couple of weeks ago, I asked the city about the fees to the car park, which was the same $490,000 question that came up tonight. I was told staff would find out and get back to me. Not only have I not heard back, but I'm concerned that the city didn't have the answer without having to ask. We need a plan. I cannot stress that enough. While I hope the meters are removed, if they are not, we cannot continue patching and fixing the way we are currently doing. These meters should have never come before council to begin with, without a plan and without the support of the community. I know there are people who think they know better, who will disagree with me on these things because it won't generate the revenue to sustain them, but one thing we have left out of this whole thing was empathy. Empathy for our local business owners and residents, so I'm asking you all to display that now. Every single one of us has a chance to make this right, because right now it is just full of wrongs. We have a duty to make sure our community thrives, and we do not shut down businesses and discourage people from enjoying the downtown that they paid for. I think we need to remember that moving forward. While all of us sitting up here are part of a governmental system of this city, we are also people who live here, and when we talk to developers about being neighborly, we can heed our own advice with projects like this. What is suggested tonight is a Band-Aid, and in my opinion, it looks like a PR attempt. It is not enough, nor it is truly what the community is asking for. If we don't do something big now, we are driving people out, and the only thing Caldwell will be offering is ghost town tours, because that is quickly what we are becoming. As I did in December, I'm once again asking that we hold a public hearing about all of the changes that need to be made, where the community can attend and we can listen to them. Not just hear them, but that we actually listen to the words they are saying. We cannot wait another 6 months and hope it gets better. We cannot turn a blind eye. Your video on Instagram was posted on Friday, giving your followers 4 days advance notice, and even then, only the people who saw the video would know about it coming up at this meeting unless they were checking for amendments to the council agenda online. As of Monday night, there had been no announcement on the city's official social media pages that I could find, yet there were no less than 5 separate posts about moving the Rice House and 7 posts about the 4th of July events since the beginning of June to prepare people for them. Why are we so thoughtful about events like that, but not when it comes to community input? certainly you can see why people don't feel like their opinions matter. 4 days is not a decent amount of time to be notified or come in and prepared to speak, especially with the holidays so close, people out of town, and business owners who need to make arrangements. This is very reminiscent of what happened before, where the communication was poor. I would like to see somebody walk into every business with a handout of when and where to show up and be told that they have the right to speak. It is not fair to say that the community has, quote, had a chance when the promotion is silent and rushed. Plan a public hearing, invite the community appropriately, and let's see what they all have to say. It is okay for us to be humble and admit that this was a mistake. It is worse to pretend that there is nothing wrong and sit idly by while things come crashing down. It creates unnecessary disconnect and anger, and that is not our job as elected officials. Our job should be to do the best we can for the people we represent and unite the community instead of tearing it apart. Again, if you talk to several businesses, you would have heard these things. You wouldn't have just heard that the times and days needed to be changed. If we take this first step to make changes, I am tasking you and your team to go further and bring these proposals I mentioned back for a vote if you won't include them tonight. Otherwise, we're right back at square one and we will continue to be stuck. We keep telling people that downtown Caldwell is the place to be, and the city did such a good job of convincing people of that people started investing millions of dollars, including some of their own life savings. And while I think everybody agrees that parking needed to be better regulated somehow, the lack of a plan is now turning these same people away and affecting our taxpayers. It is not about the dollar per hour. It is about the unorganized strategy. So I will ask again, please don't ignore the community and think that changing the hours is enough. It is not. It is time to listen. It is time to invite them back the correct way and let us figure this out together. The community does not need another task force or a consultant. They need you to talk and listen and act. And to our community, thank you for coming out tonight and expressing yourselves. It was you and your voices that led to even the slightest bit of movement. I hope you will continue to speak out with your concerns and demand change, not just with this, but all things that affect our town. We should all be in this together, and we should decide what's best. Therefore, Mayor, if you will not agree to remove the meters, I ask that you change your proposal to be including what's asked of us right now. This includes at least 1 hour free parking, remove the 3-hour max time limit no matter what, change the hours to either 9 to 5 or consider 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. This will give our community the option to come downtown during the day for free, check their mail, get their coffee, do their shopping, use the splash pad. It takes the pressure off the small businesses and transfers the fees and regulation to more out-of-area people who are visiting for bigger events like Winter Wonderland, and will force Tillian parkers into their own lots for the evenings. At least have the discussion. Saturdays and Sundays free. Commit to working with the west side of downtown so that they can have free parking on their side of the downtown as well, or split up the Tillian parking or use the Bennett machine lot. Shop lot, establish the delivery pickup spots, give each business owner a spot in front to help them get their people to and from the free parking, and have honest conversations with those businesses about utilizing other spots even if the 3-hour max is removed, meaning if there's free parking during the day that they will encourage their employees to park on one of the side streets or less populated areas or a lot. Communication could have solved this problem before running to the meters, so I propose that we try that now.
Okay, thank you. So I do just a couple, and then I see we've got at least one light over here. So just a couple of comments on that to be aware of. So you did make a comment that it's the problem that the mayor approved. Just want to make sure to know that the mayor does not have that much authority to unilaterally enforce something like this. The mayor only votes when there's a tie. And you are correct, there was a tie, and the mayor did vote on that, which means it was not the mayor solely approving that. There was 3 council members that voted in the affirmative as well. So I think it's important to know that it was not a unilateral decision of the mayor. There was 3 council members as well that did vote in favor of that, and the mayor did break the tie into that regards. You listed a number of items, the 3-hour limit, the pay by space, designated spots for DoorDash. We've actually had discussions with staff in regards to all of those items, the majority of them, and that will be coming back to council for decision for discussion in that regard. So those are all being looked at in addition to the other things that you mentioned. So that is being talked about. with staff as far as what can we do, how can we improve that. In the Amphitheater, you had mentioned that the closest free parking was over behind the theater. There actually is several free parking spots just down the street. So that is actually the boundary of the parking is Fifth. So all of this parking on the other side of Fifth Avenue, so next to the police station, that is all free parking. And so maybe we should have been better at letting them know that so that their customers could park there. They do have to cross the street, but that is all free parking. And there's no time limits, anything of that nature on those sides. So it is not in front of their business, but it is much closer than the movie theater and those other lots on the other side. The Tillian spot, you had mentioned about that, that we should have looked at rather than just putting them all behind the Amphitheater, those ones, that they should have been spread out. They actually are spread out. We had to provide a number of spots. You had mentioned about the agreements that were put in place before. I think all of us were up here on the council, and that number of spots is spread out to the parking lot that is on the other side of the railroad tracks, along with some other parking over there, and then obviously the ones there. But those are not all congregated in that one area. They are spread out in different places just due to the number that they were allotted by previous approvals. They could not all fit in one spot, so they are separated out with a number of spots across the railroad tracks as well for them. And then just real quick on this last one, this would be kind of leading in discussion further down. I know there's probably still some comments to be made, but you had mentioned about looking, and again, it is the council's decision, the council's prerogative on what you want to do, how you want to do it, if you want to move forward with some of these tonight, if you want to continue it and look at more. You had mentioned about the 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. So just one thing I would want to make sure council does discuss, if you do want to go that direction, is we've heard from a number of businesses that they appreciate the lunch turnover. They've noticed some differences on that where people are not, there is parking spaces in front of their business for the lunch crowd. So I would have some concern if you did want to move it to that 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., what does that do for that lunch crowd? And so that would just be the one comment I'd have on that proposal in that regards. But again, it's up to the council, and so I just wanted to get those while it's still fresh, get those out there on that. So, Councilor Williams, it's like you're next with your green light.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is quickly becoming something that I think we'll have to table to another discussion. As you stated yourself, this is a first step, and I'm reluctant to continue to make amendment after amendment after amendment to what this council decided. It's self-aggrandizing, but I'll say it anyway. I was the one lone no vote to these meters, and you know that, when they were first approved, but now they are approved. And we don't go back and just undo votes that were made. I don't think that's something that we're allowed to do. We can make new decisions. I understand that as well. But now that the decision has been made, I think it's important that we recognize that there is a significant expense that has been incurred, and to just tear them out now would cost the city more in having to fulfill an obligation. That was stated, and I think it's noteworthy. Even tonight, from these wonderful business owners, and I've patronized both of your businesses. I've bought from Rostock. I love mi tierra, and you know that. It's my roots in one sense. And yet, you two even disagreed. I'm not putting you at odds, but you said, make it for the locals, and you said you like that the out-of-towners are coming to Rostock and spending time, because they're coming from Parma and from beyond. They're coming from Jordan Valley, you said. And we're not going to be able to please everybody. I don't think that's ever the goal of government, is to please everybody. But my concern is these decisions we're making are not based on all of the details and all the facts and all the discussion. And this litany of proposals that's coming before us needs to be considered, needs to be well thought out, needs to be a decision that is made so that we can actually have a time frame where we can determine whether these meters work or not. I'm not happy about them, but they're here. The only way we're going to be able to judge them is to give them a time frame where we can see whether or not they have worked or not. I frequent Bond and Bevel. I don't know whether the meters are to blame for their loss or not. I just am concerned that tonight is the wrong night to make any decision, especially since there's a lot of other ideas on the table that need to be considered, need to be well thought out. We've made several changes already. To keep doing this every other council meeting and make more amendments is not going to be productive for anybody. And so while I am sympathetic to the challenges that are created by these, I think that as a council, we need to be deliberate about what we are about to do and be sure that we get all of the information to the degree that we can, and to try and hash this out over the next hour or 2 or 3, which is what it would take us to debate all of these recommendations tonight. I still don't think it would be right to make a decision tonight. This needs to be thought on, deliberated over, and we can discuss amongst ourselves one at a time without that being a violation of any sunshine law. And so that might need to be done. And I think that's all I need to say tonight in this regard.
Thank you, appreciate that. Councilor Denver.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I think I said it a couple meetings ago, and I'll say it again. This is all kind of pointless banter. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. And we can go on and on. And why didn't we do this, or why didn't we do that? And, well, we did do this. Why, no, you didn't do that. Or why didn't we go over here? I mean, it's worthless banter. So I hope we could all find a higher plane to operate from. Now, what I can tell you is that every one of us here probably takes some sort of medication or vitamin whose efficacy was based upon hard data. Not just, let's do it for 2 weeks and, oh, hey, it doesn't work. My arthritis symptoms haven't gone away, so let's try something different. We drive vehicles whose performance is based upon the efficacy of hard performance data. We don't have anything after just a couple weeks. I mean, we really implemented in the middle of May, and here we are at the end of June, and I'm not even sure they've given tickets because I've parked down here well outside the time that I was allotted and haven't got a ticket. So I'm not even sure that we have any data left to judge anything on. And I know people say I've lost 30%, but yeah, we don't know that if it's because we're in the 7th consecutive month of inflation. We just don't know. And to say after 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, that we know for sure that it's failing, we don't know that it's failing. I think there's a lot of emotion in this, and I would suspect that some members of this council will walk down the street and probably never talk with anyone who likes a parking meter. And there are other council members who will walk down the street and never talk with anyone who hates a parking meter. And that's just the way it is. But you know what, we got to get along. And however it is that we decide to proceed with this, I think we find something we finally come together on, and that is maybe taking a hard look at the data when we have the data and coming together and making a right decision once and for all. For anybody who has been to any sort of leadership training, I don't care if it's in law enforcement or in the military or in college, we know this old adage, plan, do, check, act. You plan it, you do it, you check it, and then you act. You don't plan it, do it, and oh hell, I've got a couple of critics, let's change it right away. You check it. And I'm just asking, and I didn't even vote on this, right? I'm just asking for, the benefit of our city, our decorum, our demeanor, that we just look at the hard information, we give it some time, and then we make a decision down the road. My motion would be to table this, tonight's activities.
Okay, so and that's an official motion to table it continually and then re-notice it in the future. Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor, so do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second that, but I have discussion still.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll definitely have a discussion on it. So we do have a motion from Councilor Dittenberg and a second from Councilor Register, and that is to table, this would be this item and item 3 as they're essentially one and the same, to allow for further discussion, probably community outreach, some public meetings, things of that nature, and bring it back at a future date, yet to be determined. So with that motion, yes, that motion is up for discussion.
Just discussion as well. And I'm not saying that your plan to have a group of people, or I don't know what title it's called, a commissioner board or a group, is such a bad idea. But before we table it, we kind of got to know, is that what's going to happen? Because again, are we just going to be scattered to the wind and then all of us getting ideas again? We do need something, and I'm not saying it has to be decided right now, but we got to know where we're going from. If we're going to table it, which I don't mind supporting that since there are, I've got several written down here too, and we would just be debating it for quite a while. We got to have something where it's all getting collected in one spot and looking at the data for sure. And I'm not saying you got to have that plan done in 2 minutes, because that's exactly what we're talking about, is to take some time, but we got to know where to send that collective information and let somebody begin to gather that data. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And I think with that tabling, and this would just be maybe an understanding, I don't think you could or would be appropriate to include in the motion, but just the knowledge that we will do like a workshop, and looking at, I was just looking at my calendar, working with Madam Geyer, that, and I'm trying to think, before the end of the month, that we have at least a workshop to come together, discuss it in an open public forum, to get that feedback in that nature. Obviously, this is a busy month, July is, but I believe that we should be able to find some time that, again, committed to work and have a workshop before the end of this month, to at least one, if not multiple, to get together, again, to be a public notice, coming in this room with council, with the public, to discuss and to work through that. So I think that could be a commitment that I think, hope maybe would satisfy kind of what you're looking at.
Well, it's definitely headed in the right direction, Mr. Mayor, and I think also just a comment from Councilor Register, we could certainly do a social media push more than just once, just constantly every day, that this is where you would send your comments, and this is where the meeting is, versus just popping it out there for 2 or 3 days, that the date is well, I guess, time extended, so people can either adjust their schedules, but if they're not, have a clear option as to where they can send their comments to it. And that's in addition to whatever real data that comes in too, not just comments based off emotion, but using the data too. But if people can give a reasonable answer, we don't all have to solve it ourselves here. There's plenty of smart people in our community, and just having a place to collect that, but ensuring we don't just spring it on them within 72 hours, and that we do a big push on all platforms.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
thank
no,
you.
I appreciate that. And I think also we'd all agree not on a Tuesday night, as that's the biggest night downtown. We want to make sure that all those are able to come, and looking at different times, because there's businesses that maybe are open in the morning, tough for them to come. So maybe we do look at, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, just to try to catch everybody that we can. But no, I appreciate those comments. Councilor Register.
Yeah, so I'm going to respond to some of the things that my fellow counselors said, but I'm going to wait until council comments for that. But as far as this is concerned, I'm wondering if it would be best to, like, for I think maybe what you're talking about maybe is the organizational part of it, like setting whatever date that we decide to bring this back, make sure that the community knows that they are allowed to come speak and have a public hearing. But I think we need to have some of our ideas already laid out. So is there a place where we can send those, where I can send this list that I got from the community about the 1 hour free parking, removing the 3 hour max time limit? Like, is there a place to send those, like, to you when you compile a list? And then to the clerk, and then we come, maybe everybody sends their suggestions to the clerk, and then she makes a list, and then we discuss those in a fashionable, reasonably fashionable manner. But yeah, I do have some comments after this in my council comments about it.
Yeah, and that would be the appropriate to just forward those, any thoughts, comments, things of that nature, to the city clerk, and she compile those and can bring those forward at those workshops and that nature. And also letting the council know beforehand, and even Debbie's amazing coming up with, these are the ones from different councilors, so you have those beforehand, so you can look at them, what others are thinking and proposing. And was mentioned before too, by Councilor Williams, if, you get that, and Councilor Doty had some comments that you, or some suggestions you liked or wanted to talk about, you are free to talk in that regards, with the two of you on that, so you could have those discussions as well, so we can make sure that this happens. But yeah, would go through our clerk, city clerk, Mrs. Geyer.
Mr. Mayor, just some
Yes.
comments on Councilor Registers. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, get that pushed out there, because I think right now we're sending it, I know sometimes I send it to Steve, sometimes to you. I don't think I've ever maybe sent it to Debbie, but we got to know where should all this go.
Yep, so you had to Madam Clerk. Okay, so it didn't turn on, so maybe hit it one more time. There we go. Okay, Councilor Stoddard.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to comment a little bit on Mr. Dittenberg's comments. We've had high inflation for the last 2 years. There was no reason for us to disbelieve what these folks told us last time, that they're losing a lot of money. I don't know where the inflation mark comes in, but I have no reason to disbelieve them, because they know their business. especially the chop shop and some of the other ones. So I don't think, you know, that your comment insinuates that maybe it was inflation and not because of the meters. They know their numbers. Inflation's been with us for the last 3 years, actually, and high inflation. So I just hope that everybody understands that when they come in with those numbers, that, you know, there's no reason for us not to believe them. So, thank you.
Yeah, you betcha. Any other discussion on the motion for the tabling of these items? Okay, with that, and then, and again, so again, this motion is for tabling of action item number 2 and number 3 to come back before council for decision in the future. Before that, of having community outreach, having a workshop, you know, having that before the end of this month, so before the end of July, to come forward with the public with proper notice, notification, reaching out to all the business owners downtown, and getting that out to the public. We'd probably even do I think, something perhaps in the paper as well, just to notify them as much as we can. So that is what that motion is, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? So that motion does pass, and so that will be, again, we will get that workshop scheduled. I'll meet with Debbie tomorrow. We'll figure out, and obviously we'll need to email all the council members on your schedule to make sure that you're available at those times, and we'll get that figured out as soon as possible, so we can get that started to notifications to the public. Okay, that moves us into action item number 4. This is bill number 40, consideration of bill number 47, ordinance number 3608, amending chapter 5, article 7, section 575, sub 5, pertaining to common driveways. Robin, you moved first, so I guess you get to present.
Mayor and Councilor, good evening. Robin Collins, Planning and Zoning Director. This amendment is just kind of a cleanup. Last time we brought this amendment to you, we had changed some of the section numbers. We forgot to change a simple word from shall to may in that document, so mapping has asked us to bring that back before council. This just allows them a little bit more flexibility in doing street naming on private roads and common driveways. And I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any questions? Went from something incredibly difficult to as easy as I think it can get. So, okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, so this is just, again, changing the word shall to may, it sounds like, in what was presented. So is there any discussion, or do we have a sponsor of bill number 47, ordinance number 3608?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Doty.
I'll sponsor bill number 47, ordinance number 3608, and request to move for its passage and approval, and approve the summary of publication.
Very good. Do we have a second?
I shall second it.
So we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Williams for approval of bill number 47, ordinance number 3608. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, then the voting is open. And all votes are cast. The voting is closed. And that motion passes with 4 in favor and 1 in opposition. Is that correct, Councilor Stoddard, or did you mean to? Okay, so just clarification, that was meant to be a vote in favor. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay, very good. So that we'll make sure that's noted, and that all 5 council members did vote in favor of that motion. Okay, so that moves us into action number 5, and this is a housekeeping item we've seen many times in regards to annexation to the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District for these bills and ordinances. It'd be for Bill 53, Ordinance 3614, Bill number 60, Ordinance number 3554, and Bill number 55, Ordinance number 3616. Do we have a sponsor of these bills and ordinances to annex into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District? Yes,
I
Councilor.
think I'll read this one, since it contains so many different ones. But I move that bill number 53, ordinance number 3614 for 4815, is it Alte Lane? Alante Lane. Corrected bill number 60, corrected ordinance number 3554 for North Ranch Business Park, and bill number 55, ordinance number 3616 for 16039 Settlement Lane and 0 Karcher Road, known as parcel number R327-900-1200, thereby annexing all properties into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District with a request to move for their passage.
Very good. Do we have a second? Second. So that's a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard for passage of these bills and ordinances is listed. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, then the voting is open.
Oh, I read that.
And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. And that moves us into action item number 6, which is the finance report.
Mr. Mayor.
Council Register.
The Finance Committee has, oh, no, I don't need to. I move that accounts payable in the amount of $3,922,226.61 represented by check numbers 178771 through 179132, and payroll for the amount of $688,334.23 represented by check numbers 39467 through 39494, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Very good. Do we have a second? So a motion from Councilor Register and a second from Councilor Stoddard for acceptance of the finance report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And that motion passes. Okay, so that moves us into council comments. Councilor Doty.
I think I've spoken enough tonight, Mr. Mayor, so I'll pass it along, but let's have a good 4th of July and a good parade.
Very good, thank you
How
so
about
much.
that?
Yes, yes, and the weather should actually be pretty good, not too hot, I don't think. So, Councilor Stoddard, do you mind pushing your button real quick? Perfect, thank you.
There we go. I just want to warn Mrs. North that I'm going to be coming up with a proposal for the veterans again. After some information I've collected regarding support and what the county's going to do for us, I think we need to revise that number upward. And, you know, Councilor Williams had a good statement here last time at our meeting that what kind of return do we get from some of these organizations that help the city, and I think we can kind of prove that with my proposal when the time comes. I'll send you an email regarding that, and that way you can put it in your file and think it over. Thank you.
Councilor Register.
Yeah, I've said a lot tonight, but I still have a few more things. I wanted to respond to some of the comments from the councilors as they were coming up, and with Mayor. So I did ask about those Tillian lots, and nobody knew. So I think that's part of the problem is just the lack of knowledge, I guess, and what's been put out there about who can park where and what. Because when you mentioned to her about parking on the street, I don't think they even knew that. So those are good things. And then I wanted to respond to Councilor Williams. Yes, you are correct when it came down to the car park, but as I recall, when we had that meeting, it was almost like they presented it like an RFP, like if we do it, this is who can do it, and at least that's the impression I was left with. And then after that, for the ordinance and implementation, only Councilor Stoddard and I have been the only ones that have voted no since then, once we figured out sort of what was going on and that things weren't matching up, so I thought that was important to note. But I really wanted to address Councilor Dittenberg's comments. Just so you know, when I went to talk to the downtown business owners, I had no idea who felt which way. I didn't reach out to only people that I thought were against meters. I walked in there, introduced myself, and asked people what they thought about the meters and how it was treating them, and listened to everything that they had to say. And then I brought that back here to basically create the dialogue with council on their behalf and give you the information they gave me, and then you just called it pointless and worthless. And I'm insulted by that. What I said on behalf of the business owners and community is not pointless, it is not worthless, and it's not banter. But now I understand why people don't want to come up here and speak if that's what they're being met with. And I'm sure you can change that and say that's not what you meant or whatever, but when you spoke just now, that's exactly what just happened. I had spoke, Councilor Williams had spoke, and then you basically said it was pointless and worthless banter. So I imagine why people feel like they don't have an opinion or say when it comes to council when they're met with that kind of response. And also when you talk about hard performance in a time frame, again, as a small business owner, you can't give a small business 6 months and tell them to prove it. You had mentioned that before about them filing their taxes or something along those lines to show or whatever. But in 6 months from now, they will be out of business. So you can't do that. Like if somebody's coming to you and saying, we've been okay, even in the face of a downturn economy. And then since the parking meters have come in, we've lost 20% one month, 32% the next month. We have to listen to that right now, because 6 months from now is going to be too late. They'll be out of business. They can't sustain it. And so that might be something where you could show some empathy towards some of those type of people, instead of just asking them to show their taxes or insist that they're wrong, or that it's the economy, or we need to have some kind of 6-month time frame where, like I said, we could be putting them out of business. But yeah, ultimately I am sort of, usually I don't get tongue-tied, but I'm a little bit tongue-tied by the whole pointless and worthless thing. So I'm just going to keep talking, and I'm going to keep giving you the messages from the business owners and the residents. And if you think it's pointless and worthless, then I guess that's how it will be.
Okay, so real quick before we do go to Councilor Williams. So I think that, and obviously council comments are, we pretty much let free rein. We do want to be cautious of calling out. I would recommend individuals or things of that nature, allow them, if you do have those concerns, it's great to have those discussions offline, just to see what exactly was meant and said in that regards. And then just, Councilor Williams probably is going to clarify this, but I just want to do it for his behalf. So he did also vote no on that one that you had mentioned. So it was a 3-3. So you, Councilor Stein and Councilor Williams.
Oh, that's true,
So
yes. And then you broke the tie and
Yep.
then made sure it was no.
Yep, correct. So I just want to make sure that that was stated. So,
You're
okay.
right.
Councilor Williams.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Denver.
We had a good weekend. We moved the Rice House. We moved it in a record amount of time, about 4 hours and 20 minutes. And we had a good turnout, probably 1,500, 2,000 people lining the streets, following the house. I think you were there at some point during the move and got to witness the move. It was a great move. And just to, if we're winding out the night, I just want to make sure that everybody on council, everybody here knows, everybody who wants to stream me out there on video if they want to, and I'm still waiting to, and they haven't yet, I will make any decision here based upon facts, not emotions. I'm not emotional about the parking, and I'm not on a crusade. I'm looking for facts. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I just have a few comments. Again, just with the Rice House, that was pretty spectacular. I know we were out there till the wee morning hours, myself, my wife, and my 2 younger sons started. Then we went and traded them out for the older when he got back from work, and we were down there, I think, till about 2:30 in the morning, and had to stop at McDonald's on the way home. They were open 24 hours, the drive-thru. I did not know that, so we stopped and got him some food on the way home. But it was marvelous to see that and just be part of it. I remember the Dairy Queen sign. It was like 6-inch separation from the house, taking out that sign. But kudos to Councilor Denver and to his staff at, with his day job as the executive director of Caldwell Housing Authority. Finely tuned machine. I mean, it was amazing and incredible how they did that, how they worked that house through the corners and this or that. It was remarkable. And so, yes, it was really neat to see that part of history of Caldwell on that. Excited for the 4th of July, which is 2 days away. So really encourage everybody to come out and enjoy the parade. There's going to be an amazing flyover. We're excited for that. I know Terry Harrell and Brian Keita have been working for over a year to get that. We finally got the approval about a week ago. So super excited. That's going to start off the parade. 4 A-10s, if I'm not mistaken, will be flying over to start the parade off. So we're super excited for that. And a huge thank you to the flyover crew for getting us on their schedule for that. And then also I had a great meeting with Bob Piazza. I know you had mentioned about the veterans. So he came in and we met, and he had some great thoughts and ideas that really want to see, what kind of traction we can get. He talked about, how great, he said that Bannock County, they do a phenomenal job in regards to how they organize and run things. And there was another individual there, gentleman, and I can't remember his name, so I apologize if he's listening. But they said that they're a great model to follow up. They have 14 different organizations that utilize their veterans building. We have, I think, just 1 or 2, they said. So what can we do to change that? And they indicated that it is 100% funded, the power, everything like that, so that the organizations don't pay any, which I guess they're not supposed to as a nonprofit. Right. And it's 100% funded by the county. on that. So I know somebody had mentioned, I apologize, about the county involvement. So I'd love to reach out. We plan to reach out to them, see if they would be willing. We don't expect them to pay for it all, but if we could get some money from them and then maybe us step up and cover the rest, so that I think it would make it a lot better and easier for that. And again, what we get back from the veterans that use that is phenomenal in that regard. So we are going to continue to look in that. I really appreciate it. Bob is an amazing guy and does great things. He escaped California for Idaho a few years ago on that, and so really appreciate his effort coming in and meeting with me on that. So that's really all I had for that. So with that, I would stand for a motion to go into executive session, and please do include the reasonings in your motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Doty.
I move that we go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74206, subsection 1A, for the purpose of discussing the hiring of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, and Section 74-206, subsection 1B, for the purpose of discussing the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, individual agent.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard to go into executive session. This looks like it is up on the board, so if everyone could vote, we do need unanimous decision on this in order to go to executive session. There we go. All votes are cast, and that is unanimous. So we are going into executive session. Thank you to everyone that attended this evening. We appreciate you being here. For those with the parking, thank you, Chief. Good to see you. We will be reaching out, making sure you know the dates and times for those upcoming workshops. So thank you so much for that.